In 2024, over 650 major U.S. employers formally removed the 4-year degree requirement from their job postings, not as a diversity initiative, not as an experiment, because their own internal hiring data showed the degree was not predicting job performance, and they needed a better filter. That is not an opinion about whether college is worth it. That is a documented change in how the labor market screens candidates, and it has been accelerating every year since 2020. What that change created is a specific list of career paths where the credential requirement has structurally dropped. Not informally, not in theory, but in the actual job postings, the actual interview processes, and the actual hiring decisions being made right now. This video is that list. 7 careers paying over $70,000 a year that are actively hiring people without a 4-year diploma, with real salary floors, realistic entry timelines, and the one credential or portfolio piece that gets you in the door. The answer to, if not college, then what specifically has always existed? Nobody just showed it to you. Before the list, here's the mechanism. Because understanding why this shift happened is what makes the list credible rather than just hopeful. For decades, the 4-year degree wasn't a signal of what you could do. It was a screening tool. When millions of applications came in for hundreds of openings, employers needed a fast filter. The degree was that filter, not because it reliably predicted performance, but because it was cheap to check and socially accepted as a proxy. Here's what changed. The filter stopped working. Companies started tracking the actual performance of their hires. Not just who got the degree, but who performed in the role. And what that data showed consistently, across industries, was that the degree credential was a weak predictor of job output. Portfolio quality, demonstrated skills, and structured assessments were stronger predictors. LinkedIn's 2023 Global Talent Report documented this directly. Skills-based hiring grew 90% year over year among enterprise employers. The companies that moved first, Google, IBM, Apple, Accenture, Dell, didn't do it because they stopped caring about capability. They did it because they found a better way to screen for it. The portfolio replaced the diploma. The skills assessment replaced the transcript. The demonstrated project replaced the academic credential. That is a structural change in hiring, not a loophole, not an exception. And it created specific openings in specific fields that are measurable, verifiable, and available right now. Let's be precise about this. Here's the sequence. Career 1, UX, UI designer. Median salary, $78,000 to $95,000 depending on location and specialization. Degree requirement, formally removed at over 400 companies including Google, Amazon, and Shopify. What gets you in the door? A portfolio of 3 to 5 case studies showing a real design process, problem definition, wireframes, user testing, final build, realistic timeline to first role, 6 to 12 months of structured skill building using tools like Figma, which is free. The portfolio is the interview. No transcript required. Career 2, data analyst. Median salary, $74,000 to $90,000, higher in finance and healthcare verticals. This is one of the fastest growing roles in the BLS Occupational Outlook, projected 25% growth through 2032. What gets you in the door? Demonstrated fluency in SQL and Excel or Python, plus a portfolio of 2 to 3 public data projects on GitHub. Realistic timeline, 4 to 9 months. Google's free data analytics certificate on Coursera is one of the most recognized entry-level credentials in this specific path, and it costs under $200, not $40,000. Career 3, cybersecurity analyst. Median salary, $85,000 to $112,000. The talent shortage in this field is structural. The industry currently has 3.5 million unfilled positions globally, according to ISC2's 2023 workforce study. What gets you in the door? CompTIA Security Plus certification, which requires no degree and no prior experience to sit for, plus a home lab setup documented on a LinkedIn profile or GitHub. Realistic timeline to first role, 6 to 12 months. This is one of the clearest examples on this list of a field where the credential is portable, the demand is documented, and the entry sequence is completely mapped. Career 4, project manager, tech or operations. Median salary, $77,000 to $98,000, significantly higher with 3+ years of experience. What changed here? The PMP certification, the industry standard, now formally accepts non-degree candidates who can document 36 months of project leadership experience. That experience does not have to be in a corporate setting. Freelance projects, volunteer coordination, community organizing, all of it counts if it's documented. What gets you in the door? The CAPM certification as entry-level, followed by documented project outcomes in any context. Realistic timeline: 6 to 18 months depending on prior experience. Now the next 3 careers, and the deciding factor that tells you which one is actually yours. Career 5, technical writer. Median salary, $74,000 to $89,000. This is consistently one of the most underestimated paths on this list. Technical writing sits at the intersection of clear communication and technical knowledge, and the demand accelerated sharply with the growth of SaaS products, which all require documentation, user guides, and API references. What gets you in the door? A writing portfolio, specifically technical writing samples, and familiarity with tools like Confluence, Notion, or Madcap Flare. Realistic timeline: 3 to 6 months for someone who already writes clearly and is willing to learn one technical domain. Career 6, digital marketing specialist/SEO analyst. Median salary, $67,000 to $88,000, with performance-based upside in many roles. Google, HubSpot, and Meta all offer free or low-cost certifications that are now more recognized by hiring managers in this field than a marketing degree from most universities. What gets you in the door? A Google Analytics certification, documented campaign results, even from a personal project or freelance work, and a portfolio showing measurable outcomes. Realistic timeline: 3 to 6 months. Career 7, wind turbine technician/solar installer. Median salary, $61,000 at entry, rising to $78,000 to $95,000 with 3 to 5 years of experience. The BLS projects this as the single fastest growing occupation in the U.S. economy, through 2032 to 45% growth. This is AI resistant by definition. It requires physical presence, spatial problem solving, and on-site decision-making that cannot be replicated remotely. What gets you in the door? A community college certificate program in electrical systems, typically 6 to 12 months and under $6,000, or a direct apprenticeship with a regional energy company. Here's what matters now that the list is complete. 7 paths. Real salaries. Real entry sequences. But the question the list cannot answer on its own is, which one is yours? That answer depends on 3 things: your existing skills and experience, even informal, your financial runway, how long you can build before you need income, and your tolerance for physical versus desk-based work. Those 3 variables narrow 7 options to 1 or 2. And narrowing to 1 is what ends the paralysis. That is the actual problem this list was always trying to solve. If you want to narrow this list to one specific path in about 15 minutes, there's a free quiz in the description built exactly for that. It takes your timeline, financial situation, and existing skills, and maps them to the one path on this list most likely to work for you specifically, not a direction. A specific roadmap with the first steps already sequenced. The link is in the description and in the pinned comment. Now the objection that needs to be answered directly: these paths exist, but they're probably extremely competitive, require years of unpaid work, or only work in certain cities. Let's be precise about this. 5 of the 7 paths on this list are remote eligible from day 1, or remote eligible within the first 12 months. UX/UI, data analysis, technical writing, digital marketing, and cybersecurity all have established remote hiring pipelines, meaning geography is not the barrier it would be for traditional credentialed roles. On competition. Yes, these fields are growing. And yes, that means more applicants. But the competition in skills-based hiring is portfolio competition, not credential competition. A hiring manager looking at 200 applicants for a data analyst role is not comparing transcripts. They are comparing GitHub repositories and project documentation. That is a competition you can prepare for directly and specifically. You know exactly what they're looking at. On timeline. The fear that these paths take longer than they do is one of the most consistent barriers in this space. So here's what the actual first 90 days looks like across the paths on this list that have the shortest entry windows. For UX/UI, days 1 to 30 are Figma fundamentals, free on YouTube or Figma's own learning platform. Days 31 to 60, your first case study, a redesign of an existing app you use and can critique clearly. Days 61 to 90, 2 more case studies and a portfolio site. That is a complete first 90 days. For cybersecurity, days 1 to 30 are CompTIA Security Plus study. Professor Messer's free course is the standard. Days 31 to 60, home lab setup. A $40 Raspberry Pi is enough to start. Days 61 to 90, first practice exam, LinkedIn profile updated with skills and lab documentation. For digital marketing, days 1 to 30 are Google Analytics and HubSpot certifications, both free. Days 31 to 60, run a real campaign. Even a $50 Facebook ad for a friend's small business generates documented results. Days 61 to 90, case study write-up and portfolio page. The gap between knowing these paths exist and actually moving on one is almost never a capability gap. It is a sequencing gap. People do not know what to do on day one. And because they don't know day one, they don't start. And because they don't start, the path stays theoretical. The shift in the labor market created these openings. What fills them is not a degree. It is documented, specific, verifiable proof that you can do the work. That proof is buildable in 90 days, starting this week. If you want the quiz that narrows these 7 paths to the one that fits your situation specifically, timeline, finances, skill baseline, the link is in the description and the pinned comment. It takes 15 minutes and gives you a roadmap, not just a direction. Which of these 7 paths felt most real to you when you heard it? And what's the one thing that's been stopping you from starting? Here's what to take from this. The question, if not college, then what specifically, has had an answer for years. The answer is not one path. It's a set of specific paths that are documented, growing, and actively hiring people who can show proof of capability rather than proof of enrollment. What changed is not that the paths appeared. What changed is that the credentialing layer that used to block access to them started to come down. Not everywhere, not for every role, but in enough places, 650 employers and growing, that the structural picture is no longer theoretical. It is the actual job market you are operating in right now. The 7 paths in this video are not the only paths. They are the ones with the clearest entry sequences, the most documented salary floors, and the highest rate of skills-based hiring adoption right now. They are the ones where the math on your investment in time, in money, in energy is most verifiable before you start. Before you close this, the next time someone asks you why you're not taking the conventional path, you now have a better answer than, "I don't know." You have 7 of them. You have the salary floors. You have the first 90 days. And you have the understanding that what blocked you before was not the absence of a path. It was the absence of anyone showing it to you clearly. The math was never hidden. Nobody just showed it to you. Now you've seen it. You were right to question it. Keep going.